Hey race fans, Alex Weaver joining you from my living room in Charlotte, North Carolina for another installment of the world of eNASCAR. A lot to dive into today and a lot on deck for the show. We're going to have Kyle Long join us, Evan Posocco, PJ Walsh, and Russell Cox. I'm going to break everything down, but first we have to start with the Pro Invitational Series from Dover. So let's take a look at what happened last Sunday.
Here we go on the Monster Mile. Green flag. We're underway. Ross Chastain into turn one.
And that's what I said. It brings you to the inside wall and makes contact, comes back up in front of Fincham. Benedetto's involved. You need to know that you have the exact same
Whoa!
setup.
Hill turns Kligerman.
Almost loses it. Then they're three wide off of turn two.
Oh, boy.
See Benedetto involved with that. I think
Kligerman again.
Kligerman. Oh, man.
Regan
Smith. Oh, no.
Oh, I don't think Suarez knew he was there.
Yeah, maybe didn't know. He thought he was clear maybe, but he just came up a little bit. Bowman was still there. Oh, he's there now, though. I think Timmy's going to have to give him some room. There goes William with those four fresh tires going to the front, back to the lead.
William Byron trying to win for the third time. Drops low on Austin Dillon. And Christopher Bell will get that close within a quarter of a second. Byron.
The concentration finally breaks on William Byron's face, and the joy and excitement of winning another iRacing event.
So a lot of action that happened at Dover, and I want to bring in a friend of the show, Evan Posocco, the voice of iRacing. Evan, we saw Willie B. He gets it done again. That's 3 for him in the Pro Invitational Series, and he's led, over 450 laps? Something of crazy of that number.
Yeah, I think I saw an article that said Willie B is really good. And that's 4 now in a row for the Hendrick guys when you count Alex Bowman at Talladega. And I mean, it wasn't always a walk in the park for him. You know, we had 12 different lead changes, 7 different leaders. And even on a late race yellow, Byron found himself back in traffic. But he may have pushed his way through to ensure that he got his third win. And he was the best car, so no shock there.
Yeah, he was the fastest car all day. He took 4 tires at the end. It was kind of a runaway in the sunset for Willie B. But I have to ask, did anything stand out at Dover that was a little different than what we had seen through the rest of the series?
Well, I was actually surprised that we saw those 7 different leaders. I mean, and it was kind of the usual cast of characters. Bowman really impressed me. He led some laps until it was Byron who went around him. We saw Parker Kligerman out front early until he got involved in an incident with Timmy Hill, took him out. But, I mean, it was a really good race. It actually felt a lot like a real race just in how it played out with the strategy and the timing of the cautions. It's Dover, so, of course, you have your mandatory chaos on the backstretch where somebody wrecks and they all go sliding down the bank. I mean, it was a really impressive race. But I thought that it would have been dominated more so by 1 or 2 cars. So to see a bunch of different faces up front is what pleasantly surprised me in that one.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. All the drivers that I talked to as well said that Dover drove probably the most similar to what it actually is in real life. So that was fun to see them kind of dominate the Monster Mile.
It is. And of course, iRacing, the team doing a good job with the yard update. So it looked exactly like it would have if we were there at the racetrack this week. And they've been doing that week over week. And Dover is a tough track. I mean, yes. It's kind of one that we refer to as you're almost driving against the track more so than the other cars. And then when you come up against somebody, you got to figure out how to pass them because your primary objective is just surviving it. We kind of warned about staying out of the fence in turns 4 and 2, and they did a real good job. I think everybody was disciplined. And those non-sim racers, as we've been referring to them, have honestly really stepped it up and just in time for it to kind of wrap up. But I think they're starting to get the hang of this sim racing thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Evan, I can always count on you to help me recap things from the Pro Invitational Series, but I want you to hang on because we're going to have you back at the end of the show.
Sounds good.
Let's switch gears and recap the eNASCAR Heat Pro League side of things. I'm going to welcome back in from last week our friend Russell Cox, also known as Rusty Wallace. You brought my favorite jacket back, and I know you're going to bring some heat on the eNASCAR Heat Pro League side of things. What happened at Dover? Let's start with PlayStation side of things because it was crazy.
Yeah, we have to start with the PlayStation side. Any driver, any week can win one of these races. The field is separated by a tenth, so if you make any mistake, that's the difference between winning and losing, and winning a lot of money and putting yourself in the championship or being left out. And we saw that this week. Kyle Arnold stepped up to the plate, a redemption story. After having a little bit of drama last week with Maxwell Castro, a point contender, he stepped up past Cody Giles late. Kyle Arnold picks up his first career win, and he puts himself up at the top of the point standing with Maxwell Castro, and it's going to come down to the final lap of the final corner next week at New Hampshire.
All right, well, now let's switch over to the Xbox side of things. What's going on in that series?
We have a heavyweight battle between Daniel Buttafuoco and Justin Brooks. Every week, one of those two drivers is winning. It started off with Justin Brooks at Homestead. Last week, it was Daniel Buttafuoco. This week, the two drivers were swapping the lead the entire race, back and forth, and it came down to the end with lap traffic. But Justin Brooks, the veteran, picked up the victory. But don't look now, some of the guys back in the pack, Nick Walker, he's starting to gain some speeds, and then it's still early in the season, so keep an eye out for the rest of the competition to step up the plate and contend with these two heavyweight drivers.
You mentioned that it's early in the season and we're gearing up now. We're going to stay virtually on the East Coast and up north. We're going from Dover to New Hampshire. They're going to be in the Cup cars. What can we expect next Wednesday night?
You know, every time I try to predict and every time I try to kind of give my expectations, they deliver the complete opposite. But it is going to be dramatic, no doubt about it. Like I said, the last corner, the last lap, what are these drivers willing to do to lock themselves in the championship? PlayStation 4 side, we have 4 guys separated by 3 points. So that's one position on the racetrack. Could we see a Ryan Newman situation where maybe they'll send it on the last corner to advance? We don't know. On the Xbox side with Daniel Buttafuoco and Justin Brooks, those two are going to be nose to tail through that race. I think we're going to see some lack of patience maybe from Daniel Buttafuoco to pass him and lock himself into the championship. But anything and everything can happen here in the NASCAR Heat Pro League.
Well, you know what they say. It doesn't matter how you start. It matters how you finish. We're looking forward to that action coming up, and we'll see you on the call. Thanks for joining us.
Yep. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. I'm now going to be joined by my co-host of the show, NFL Superstar. I guess we cannot call you that anymore because you're no longer in the NFL, but now you're our iRacing Race Hub superstar, Kyle Long.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a superstar anywhere, but I guess I'm involved now with Race Hub, so which is great. Thanks for having me, Alex. Always nice to get on here and talk to you. It's been a month since we last talked.
I know. We talked about this before we started filming. It's hard to believe that it's been a month since I've had you here on the show, but I want to ask what's been going on with life in that last month. Quarantine has not changed. We've all been in our same houses, so what's it look like?
Yeah, you know, yesterday, I left the house for the first time with the intention to go do something, and I wanted to go to the golf course, and I know that there's one that just opened up next to us, so I was going to go over there, and they said, dude, we're booked 3 years in advance right now because we just opened back up. Get a clue. Yeah. So I'm figuring out things to do. I got the tent set up in the backyard. We slept outside, did a little camping, a little glamping. Now I'm looking forward to hopefully this thing cooling down. We can get out, do some more fun stuff. But it's been staying active and staying healthy.
Well, that is definitely more than I've been doing. I've done a little couching and some Netflixing. So some eating always. That's what my quarantine's like.
What shows are you watching?
So I've been told I need to start Ozark, so I'm going to try and get that. But Outer Banks was my last one because
Ozark's a good one to catch up on because you only have 2 seasons to go through if you haven't watched the first one. So.
I haven't. Yeah, so we'll get into that. But I want to ask you too about on iRacing and live streaming because I know you've been doing a lot of that. You're not behind the wheel as much, but you've been live streaming some things. So what's going on in that iRacing world for you?
Yeah, well, in terms of iRacing, we've been definitely busy. We've had our hands full, and that's a great thing. Unfortunately for me, for my iRacing career as a driver, it's taken a back seat to kind of the management position and overseeing the E-Coke series, which has been a lot of fun. Jake Nichols, Phil Diaz for the Mode Motorsports team. They've done a great job. It's been some tough weeks in the last few weeks, but that's how it goes in iRacing and in racing in general. So fun to be involved with Race Hub, fun to be involved with the Pro Invitational, and now getting to hang out with you is pretty cool.
You mentioned that Pro Invitational series. We had that week at Dover, and now we're looking ahead to North Wilkesboro coming up. But as far as that whole series, it's been pretty entertaining for us and for the fans as well. So let's look back on this past race. Anything surprised you? Willie B got a win. No shocker there.
Yeah, I think the big surprises are you're starting to see some of the tempers come out from some guys that you think are pretty even keel, which is something that goes on regardless. But now we have this unfiltered access inside the vehicle virtually, and we're getting to see some of the personalities come out. And, I think the personalities are a great thing for NASCAR because when people are watching the real thing, they fall in love with the number. They fall in love with the paint scheme. Now we get to find out a lot about these drivers, and I think that's a really good thing for the sport.
All right, Kyle, so we're going to welcome back in our friend Evan. Evan, I have to talk to you about North Wilkesboro because you may have some insight. This is a brand new track. We don't know what the experience level is going to be like, but we're going old school, but it's new school on iRacing.
Yeah, it's really cool. So this track is not going to be available to the public until next month. So these drivers have had access this week and they've been practicing, but you can't really pull, like, except for maybe the case of Jeff Gordon and Bobby Labonte and some of those guys, you can't really pull any experience. It's going to be new for these drivers racing it on the sim. They've been doing a ton of practice. I haven't even seen any of the practice. That's how kind of top secret all this testing has been this week. But it's so cool to see it back.
Yeah, Kyle, do you think that it's going to be the old school guys with experience that have, maybe some experience at North Wilkesboro? What do you expect? What can we expect?
Well, I think you can expect the unexpected. You can also expect this to be kind of like Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. Dale Jr. has gone out and he's put forth a lot of support to get North Wilkesboro revamped and reintroduced to the iRacing service. NASCAR fans, new and old, fired up about this. So we're going to get to see drivers with the golden tickets driving on Sunday that nobody else got, and we're all going to be on the outside looking in. It's going to be fun, and kudos to Dale Jr. for leading the charge on this thing.
The mental picture of Dale Jr. as Willy Wonka right now is just ingrained in my head forever. We also have another driver who's coming again out of retirement. He raced at Talladega. Let's hope his racing skills are a little different on iRacing at Talladega as they are at North Wilkesboro. But Jeff Gordon in the 24 is coming back, so maybe he won't get stuck in the fence this time.
He honestly did good. I mean, he had a decent race going and just got caught up in. He wasn't awful. He did a really good job. And it's
Evan, I don't
cool
think
because
Jeff's going to come beat you up, dude.
He did good. I was legitimately impressed. But he's bringing the old school paint scheme back as well. I think he's going to be driving the Rainbow Warrior. There's a couple of drivers. I know Timmy Hill's kind of giving a shout out to some of the old. So I'm hoping a lot of the teams actually do some of those throwback paint schemes. But they got to get Jeff on the sim and get him some time to practice, because maybe you can pick up some of those pieces again. So the interesting thing, and so obviously this was scanned last year. The track was kind of in disrepair though at that time. So iRacing normally scans a track and they match it exactly with what they have. They actually had to do some restoring, filling in cracks with the data that they have. It's super unique because there's some tracks in iRacing that got scanned that are on the service and now the tracks are gone. And that's typically how we kind of see that unique thing. Older versions of Phoenix, older versions of Michigan, Texas. So some of the short tracks on the service that are gone now. But I don't know if we've ever actually gone back and scanned a track that was already defunct at the time and brought it back to life. So, I mean, this opens up a world of possibilities, not just for Wilkesboro, but a handful of other tracks as well going forwards if this is a success.
Yeah, Evan, it's like growing up, I always went and appreciated antiques with my mom. She was all about antiquing. There might be a little dust on the bottle, as I've heard, but don't let it fool you about what's inside. North Wilkesboro, I think, is the first of many of these tracks we're going to see. What I personally want to see is I want to ride on the beach at Daytona. So when they make that happen, I'm all in, baby. And give me one of those old steel race cars, too.
Yeah, I want to race in that one. I don't know how we make the beach happen, but that's the next one. Kyle, if you can make that happen, you said with Dale Jr., if they build it, we will come. So get working on that.
Got to get my shovel.
Yeah, we're getting the old tracks. So next on my wish list, that I think on everybody's wish list, is the old cars as well. So whoever's listening in, I know that obviously the demand's out there.
Okay, Evan, I have to ask you, though, now with Hendrick drivers out, a lot of the Penske drivers are out, we have to look at some of the regular iRacing pros, like the Timmy Hill and the Garrett Smithley and those Landon Castle, those guys. Can we expect them to run up front the majority of North Wilkesboro?
Yeah, and it's interesting because, of course, Timmy got that win a little bit earlier. But, if we talk about kind of my top 5 for the power rankings, I got to have Timmy Hill as my number 1 because he's not just an iRacing pro in the sense that, he just races on iRacing a lot. He's a legitimate iRacing pro, having been in the Coke Series sometimes. But, I mean, there's 4 names there down. And I really couldn't decide what order to put them in. And that would be Garrett Smithley as my 2, Landon Castle as a 3, Dale Jr. 4, and Parker Kligerman 5. If this was a full season on iRacing, I bet you those drivers would all get wins. So it's going to be a crime they all don't get to victory lane. I feel like one of them's got to do it.
Well, we see the Posocco power rankings. Now we're going to have the long power
Alex.
rankings.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm so fired up to get to mine because, as you know, it's a big
I like
week.
it.
So I'm starting off here at the top of the board with Landon Castle. I think he's done a tremendous job, and he's a guy that's gotten better every week. Every driver has had a drop week, but, with this new track, level playing field. So Timmy Hill at 2, Parker Kligerman at 3. He's been a nuisance the entire year for the entire field, mostly at the front is what I'm talking about. Garrett Smithley at 4. And I've got Dale Jr. at 5. Wait, you know what? Never mind. If you build it, they will come, Dale. And I'm going to put you at 1 for my power rankings at North Wilkesboro because I think the track is going to feed you energy, baby.
Yeah, imagine that. The one that had the most input in this track, you have him running up front. Now, this has been a favorite of mine every single episode is the over-under game. Evan, you're familiar with it. Kyle, I don't know if we played this with you last time we had you on the show, but it's a good time. So I'm going to throw out a statement. I want Evan to start, and then Kyle will go to you. But you either say if you think it's over the statement that I say or under the statement. So the first up is 5 bump and runs for the lead. EP, over-under.
I'm going to go for under for the lead, but there's definitely going to be about 40 to 50 of them for positions through the field. But I think up front, again, because it's a short track, I think it's going to come down to a couple of guys that are really quick learners, and they're going to take advantage of this week of practice. So I'll go under as far as for the race lead.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go under as well. There's definitely going to be a lot of bumps. I'm not sure about bump and runs at a track like Wilkesboro that really I have no information about. You can only see the old pictures and get some granulated tape of it, but you're looking at for the guys who raced there actually, like Gordon and who are around the track, it's going to be easy. I think the new guys will be fast enough to stay out ahead. There won't be as many of these bump and runs for the lead.
All right, Kyle, I think I may know your answer for this next one, but 10 laps led by Dale Jr., the builder of North Wilkesboro himself. Evan?
I want to say yes, so I'm gonna go with yes because I was kind of thinking out loud because of course Dale's kind of the one who got all this together, and I wonder if that came with the added benefit of a little bit more track time to give feedback to the folks in Massachusetts at iRacing and kind of giving them feedback on where it's at. So I think maybe that track time's helping Dale out, and he is one of the top drivers anyway. So I'll go over.
I think Junior has a little bit of experience in the dramatics department as well. So I'm going to go, no, he won't lead 10 laps, but he will win the race. But you do the math, and it's going to be a nice one there at the finish. But I think Junior will take the checkered flag there at North Wilkesboro.
They say that there's only one lap that matters that you lead. So let's hope it's the last one for Dale Jr. Okay, last one. If you have a drink, and whatever your drink of choice may be this weekend, I have to say that the drink phrase or scenario setup of the weekend is going to be how many times that they say that Jeff Gordon won back at North Wilkesboro in 96. So do we think that it's going to be over or under 5 mentions on the broadcast of the 24 in victory lane?
Over, like 15, 20. I mean, so it's funny because this track has been restored to, I think, 1987. So it's not going to look visually like it did when Jeff won in 96. They decided to go a little bit more old school. It's the same track. We got Jeff back in the sim, assuming he's going to be doing it at the Fox Studio. It's going to be way, way over. You're going to see B-roll and videos, and he'll be talking about it. It's you'll hear it once or twice.
I think we're definitely going to hear it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I also think back to 1996 and what was going on in 96. And I think that was the year my dad retired from playing football. And I look at his film and I'm just like, that was a different ball game. So now we get to tie in 2 different eras here, an old track with that old school driver mentality with guys like Bobby Labonte, Jeff Gordon, and the likes of those dudes. And we're going to get them matched up with these young guns who are just flat out fast. So who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be a heck of a show this weekend, and we'll see how many drinks we take on Saturday. Thank you both for joining me, but I want to ask, because this has been so fun in this Pro Invitational Series, we're kind of wrapping things up a little bit until we at least get back real racing on the real racetrack. So any final thoughts? Kyle, since you're technically our guest this week, I'll let you go first.
I think for final thoughts, I'm really looking forward to seeing which of these drivers, and we've talked about this on Race Hub, which of these drivers will take the confidence and the experience they've gained, maybe being up at the front of the field during this hiatus from real racing, and who's going to carry it to the real track once we get started. So I'm interested to see what Evan thinks there because he's been witness to all this. So there are a few names I have in mind, but that's what I have in mind.
Well, it's been obviously super cool to see all of these drivers get on the sim, and the names that we talk about a lot in our power rankings are some of the experienced sim racers. So, I really hope that an event like this on Saturday kind of highlights the fun aspect of sim racing, because we can take the Cup cars and send them to Dover or Texas or whatever track we're at. But we're going to be putting, 2020 Cup cars on track at North Wilkesboro. I mean, you can't do that anywhere but on iRacing. Those are the fun combinations, and I hope that we have, when we get back to real racing, maybe more events like this. We've seen the Wednesday night iRacing stuff with Fox, Chili Bowl stuff, IROC stuff. I mean, it's an endless possibilities. And I hope maybe at least the people tuning in that they enjoyed this, entertainment that we could provide during this downtime, and hopefully check out some of the other sim racing stuff. Maybe not just with the NASCAR pros, but some of the other stuff as well. It's a super fun community, and happy to have been able to take this opportunity to highlight it to the world.
Yeah, Evan, I want to jump in and thank everybody, really, because I didn't get to do that. But I want to thank everybody who made all this happen. I know that there's so many people that have had a great time with this, and it's been a welcome distraction from so many things. So hats off to all of them, and kudos to the iRacing community and NASCAR for making this thing happen.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining me. It's always a pleasure, but don't forget that there's a lot of iRacing action still happening with Kyle Long and Mode Motorsports side of things. And then with Evan Posocco, we can hear you on the call on Tuesday nights. So thank you both so much. From my East Coast, Kyle Long, to my West Coast, Evan Posocco. Thank you both.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so for now, all things betting odds, I have to welcome in my friend PJ Walsh from the Action Network. PJ, we're switching things up because not only are we at North Wilkesboro, but there's no William Byron in this race. So somebody might actually have another chance to win.
I know. It's almost like a cheat code out there. He's so good at it. Someone else may finally win. I'm looking forward to it.
So who do we think, if we don't have William Byron in there, is there guys that we can look at? Because this is kind of an unknown track for us as far as the iRacing circuit.
Yeah, you bring it up. It's unknown. I don't even think it was on there to practice. So the guys like Byron, Hill, Smithley, they won't have the laps. Hill's the favorite now at plus 275. But remember, he has to start at the back because he finished third last week. So I'm avoiding him altogether.
Okay, so not taking him. A lot of folks will go towards Timmy Hill and put it down on there because he obviously is good and one of the iRacing favorites. But I have to ask you if you have a favorite in your mind that you would go towards.
Yeah, Timmy Hill's the favorite in terms of if I was doing rankings, but he's plus 275. Don't want to bet it. I actually like Ryan Preece. I had to look it up and didn't realize he's led the second most laps this year. Now, granted, William Byron's led almost all of them, and Preece is second. There's a gap with everybody else. But Preece has led the second most laps, and because Hill has to come from the back, I could see Preece getting out front early and controlling the race. So you could see Timmy Hill burn up his stuff. He may get caught in a wreck. This is a really inexperienced field. Remember, there's no Penske, there's no Hendrick, so even the guys like Jimmy and Keselowski, our favorite long shot, aren't running. So you have guys like Gordon, you have guys like John Wood, I think, is running the Wood Brothers car. Truex is making his first start. So the field is short, only 27 cars, but Hill may get caught up in wrecks. He may burn up his stuff. So I'm taking Preece. He'll lead early.
We saw in Talladega, and you threw out this last name like it was nothing. Jeff Gordon's coming back to race at North Wilkesboro. He has the last real-life win at that track back in the 90s, but he's now taken to the virtual track again. So I see the 24 on your hat. Is that your bet?
It is. I believe last time we talked about a ceremonial Jeff Gordon bet. So he's 80-1. Even who I'd love seeing Jeff bet, I don't think I can bet him at 80, but I may have to throw a couple bucks on him at 20-1 for a top three. I've had a lot of people ask me too, like, is experience at North Wilkesboro 20 some years ago going to translate here? I think people are going to bet Gordon. That's why books have him up. I don't see any real correlation between what happened in, I think it was September of 96 and right now digitally, but I'm a Gordon fan. So I'll throw a couple bucks on him at 20-1 and hope he can sneak into the top three.
Yeah. Let's just hope he's not literally caught in the fence like he was at Talladega.
Yeah, just stay inside the fence.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll be okay.
I ask you every week that we have this show too about your long shot. So do you have a different long shot than you did last week?
Well, Keselowski did it for us because he's not running, so I can't. That wouldn't be a good bet to pick someone who's not actually in there, or maybe better depending based on how he's performed for us. I'm actually taking a guy that did run North Wilkesboro as well. I just got done saying how experience doesn't matter, but taking Bobby Labonte at 50-1. It's not because he has experience at the old North Wilkesboro. It's because he just runs a lot of iRacing. So I think he's got a lot of experience in a field that won't be experienced. He's 50-1, so placing half a unit on that, and also bet him 12-1 to finish in the top three.
I like it. Taking the old school guys to get it done at North Wilkesboro.
I'm going old school. Come on, we're kind of old school in this. So let's go old school.
Awesome. Well, thank you, PJ, so much for joining us. Look forward to what North Wilkesboro is going to bring as far as the betting odds, and let's see who can make it to victory lane.
Thanks so much, Alex.
So we are headed to North Wilkesboro Speedway coming up, and it's going to be a heck of a show. But first, you have to get your lineup. And lucky for you, the NASCAR Finish Line app is available for you guys to do that. NASCAR announced a slate of new fantasy and prop betting offerings for the eNASCAR iRacing.com Pro Invitational Series, created courtesy of NASCAR's official gaming partner, Penn Interactive. The eNASCAR Finish Line mobile game is available now across iOS and Android phones and tablets, and can be downloaded on the App Store and Google Play Store. Players can win a $5,000 jackpot by accurately predicting the top 2 finishers and the highest finishers across 6 different groupings of 4 drivers. So get to those devices, download the Finish Line app, make sure and set your lineup, because we're going racing at North Wilkesboro. It's going to be a Saturday show instead of Sunday. Happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there, but we're racing Saturday at 3 p.m. It's going to be on Fox, FS1, and the Fox Sports app. Make sure and tune into that. But first, we have to leave you with the e-social media moment of the week. It was a great one because the real heroes during this pandemic and during these times are the ones on the front lines helping and dealing with Corona. And we have a couple of our drivers who actually shared a meaningful message on social media for the Real Heroes Project. So we dedicate this to all of the healthcare workers who are helping during this time. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys later.